Welcome to the Makaranda Podcast. I am your host, Eleanor Evans Medina. This show is a space designed to share meditations, Dharma teachings, and conversations about life, death, and love. Thank you for listening, supporting, and sharing our work. Happy listening. Hi, everybody. We're here with my grandmother, Barbara Ipsaro. We call her MaMere. And I wanted to have the opportunity to talk with you today because so many of my clients come in and they say, I want to be able to listen to myself. I want to be able to listen to my intuition. What's right for me? Which way do I go? What do I do? Which voice in my head do I listen to? And as my maternal grandmother, I look up to you so much. And I thought that you could share your wisdom with my clients and my friends and people in my life. So we have this sacred gift from you. And so this is called an intuition interview, where I will ask a series of questions about how you learn to listen to your intuition and any words of wisdom that you have for us.
Okay.
Glad you're here.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Great. So share with us who you are and when you were first introduced or aware of about intuition.
I probably started when I was late. I would say, let me think about it a minute. Probably when I began high school, maybe 14 or 15 years old. I probably had it before that, but I didn't know what it was. So then I became more aware of myself. And my response to other people and my responsibilities to study hard in school and have a good time, because I had a really good time in high school.
You did?
We laughed a lot. It was innocent. The boys would put one bottle of beer in the back of the trunk of the car, and then they would go out. If we were having a party, they'd go out and take 2 sips and then come back sharing. It wasn't a whole lot of it. First of all, I didn't have that much money. Didn't have that much money to spend. So we went to the movies, but not. And when you get into alcohol, they were young and a ton of fun. And second of all, that really wasn't their goal or idea or need or whatever it was. And then speaking of drinking, I never drank. I mean, I think I was maybe 40 years old. I just didn't like it. So that was an intuition, but it's just an observation.
And when you say you were in high school, where were you in high school?
In Baltimore, Maryland, at Notre Dame Preparatory School.
And what year was that?
I graduated in 1951.
Okay.
So I'm now 91 years old, going on 92. And so just to let you know.
Yeah, that's great context.
I've lived a long time.
Yeah.
Intuition. I probably had a lot more than I've ever thought about. I've never really thought about that subject.
Intuition.
It's there.
Sure.
I know that, but I've never really spoken about it till now when you're asking me.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
So
the first. Why do you think you've never talked about it, even though it's there? Just out of curiosity. Was it just not?
Never came up.
Mm.
Never came up, and I know it was there. I had a wonderful husband, and he would intuit me as well as himself.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
This is bro,
mhm.
Anthony.
So I'm just trying to put it through my head right now.
Mm-hmm.
um, we were brought up in a religious background
Mm-hmm.
at a Catholic church, and it was a very birth to death really belief in a system, helping us to invent look inside of ourselves and see what we were good or what was not so good. Or
Mm-hmm.
so mostly in high school, I laughed.
Laughed.
I laughed a lot.
Uh-huh.
We all laughed a lot.
What a gift is that? Oh, gosh, we need that.
We had very fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to be home at 11 o'clock. So there's a lot to get in between that. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess through my Catholic religion,
Mm-hmm.
we were brought up to be a good person, think about what kind of a person you are, or there's some kinds of things that you might not think about but do.
Mm-hmm.
So then that evolved into a lot of intuition, a lot of looking at myself,
Mm-hmm.
focused on sins. And what did I didn't do any. I didn't have any sins really. I mean, kiss boys, that's about it. But on the other hand, we went to confession
Mm-hmm.
as part of that religious belief. And that was intuitive, right? We're just thinking about what have I done to be a good person to others,
Mm-hmm.
and a good person to um, help people, not to help people, but to be interested in people,
Mm-hmm.
so that I could respond to them for
Mm-hmm.
something that was good or funny or not so good. Maybe maybe their mother uh, obeyed them or helped them to become obeyed and things like that were very much having to do with, but it was more about being a good person.
Mm-hmm.
I have to just say that.
Mm-hmm.
And all that entails.
Mm-hmm.
So that takes me through high school.
So you think your Catholic upbringing really supported you in getting in touch with yourself
Yes.
and getting in touch with the values
Yes.
and morals
Yes.
that you had and have
Right.
to be a good person.
That was the focus.
Uh-huh.
You wanted to be a good person. I wanted to be a good person. I wanted to reach out to others and respect others and grow up. Takes a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to look at yourself a lot before you. And then I was married when I was 21. And I had 6 children. So now my focus was on developing them and helping them to be a good person, to be a strong person, to study hard in school and to the kindness and young people can be a little bit mean sometimes. And so the intuitive part was there was I need to not let that bring me down. If somebody was unkind or that would be, I would go, all right, that was mean for you, but I'm still okay about myself. So that was a little aside. So once I had children, I absolutely, positively loved having children.
Mm,
Who knew that when you have a baby, you don't know how you're going to be.
right.
But I don't know. I just really fell in love with my children and wanting them to be a responsible, happy, whatever happy means to different people, and to respond to themselves the way we did when we went to confession. Think a little bit about yourself. Talking about this, the more I think that was a big thing. Haven't talked about this, but if you go to confession, you talk to this priest, and it was never mean or anything like that at all. In fact, they were good listeners. And so and then I began to teach my children that. And I had very strong parents and who responded to our growing up and being a good person and being conscious of others. So
when you say the word intuitive or listening to ourselves, what does that mean to you? If we were to just say it simply.
Let's see. What does that mean to me? I think it gives me confidence, because if I think about myself and respond to my needs and my opportunities and responses to others, I think that that was in there a lot in terms of responding to the needs or happiness or generosity or
intuition, it sounds like, is a responding to the needs of self and other.
I would say so.
Something like that.
I would say so.
Okay.
Way I was brought up. I don't want to pay too much to the Catholic Church because it has a weakness now that I have never given up on. Because now I've learned. Now I don't need that kind of confession and all that. So
because you've learned.
Because I've learned with maturity and this background that I had, helps me to respond. And sometimes I don't think about it before something just occurs or happens or whatever happens right now. I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah.
Helps you to think about and what are your intuitions and why do you respond to them? I haven't really ever put that into words, I don't think. Excuse me, I'm going to take a little sip of water.
Yes, please do.
I got dry.
Yeah, we're here in Colorado at the Chautauqua where you come every summer.
Yeah.
And it is dry here.
It is very dry.
Yeah.
Ask me about my eyes. My eyes have been tight, got to put drops in them.
Yeah.
Just now.
Interesting.
It is. I love it here though. I love the weather, the beauty of the mountains and all that. So
I love having you here too.
Thank you.
It's such a treat every summer.
Oh, thank you. So glad you're here.
And you're the reason that I live here.
And bro. He's structured. We have got to get these kids out of Baltimore. We've got to bring these kids out here to hike and bike and all that.
Horseback ride.
Yeah, don't forget that part. Yeah. So yes.
Yeah. So that you think that, that I think that was an intuition for you too. Maybe you can share with us a bit about, after you raised your kids and then you had the intuition perhaps to come to Colorado from Baltimore. Would you say that's an intuition? Like an
Well, I had the
instinct or-
opportunity
Uh-huh.
first when Anthony encouraged me to come.
And Anthony's my grandfather, bro,
Yeah.
who MaMere.
Yeah.
You weren't married at that time,
No.
right? He just invited you.
Yeah, I had been divorced before.
Okay. Yeah. And so Anthony invited you to
Yeah.
come to Colorado after your divorce.
Yes.
And this was what year?
Probably, I think it was, I have to think about that.
In the 1990s, I think, because I remember you saying recently you moved out here in 1992.
Okay, well then there you are.
So I was 2 years old at that time.
Mhm.
But so you had an opportunity to
Yes.
come to Colorado. Will you share with us about that?
I've been very, let me just back up just a little
Yeah,
bit.
please.
My parents didn't have enough money to send me to college. I had very, very strong high school education. So I tried to get a job, and my father found me, helped me to find a job, and I went to work for an insurance company. And I was a file clerk, and I don't mean this to be unkind or anything, but I had no idea that people got paid for filing through A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it didn't take me very long to intuit that I needed the some opportunity, make my opportunity to go to work for another company. And I worked for a man who was right out of college himself, about 3 or 4 years. And at the end of the year, end of my first year, he said to me, "You know, Barbara, you really need to go to college." So I said, I know, I want to do that. But my father didn't have the money. It was expensive. So I decided to start saving my money, and which I did in the next year. And then I started going to college. Then I had a lot of children, and so I was halfway through, I guess. And then when they got just a little bit older, everybody was in school. So I started back to a program, Notre Dame University in Baltimore, the same campus and everything that I was on when I was in high school. So I absolutely, after my children, I absolutely fell in love with being in college. And it was just invigorating. And I intuited that I knew this for a long time, but it just hadn't worked out for me.
For you to go to college, me.
And so that was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I'm almost happy that it happened that way, because, I was grown and an adult, and I had, oh my gosh, this is so interesting.
You were really involved
Yes.
in the learning.
Yeah.
Which doesn't always happen when we come right after high school.
I don't think so. Some people do.
Some people, for sure.
But not necessarily. And it was a woman's college. So that was another gift, because I was with young students also. It wasn't just, I could pick up on courses that I needed or wanted, because it was available and for the students. So I took some classes with them, some classes with adults. The longer I was there, the more I studied with the young students.
So there was a whole range of ages that you were studying with at that time. And I bet that was impactful for your learning and theirs.
It was indeed. Yes, it was. And then I studied psychology, majored in that. And then after I got out of college, my son had gone to a school, McDonald School in Baltimore, Maryland. And there was a man there who was really managed the development of students. And so he said to me, I want you to come and be the academic counselor as well as personal counselor to our students. But we can't hire you until you have a degree. So, of course, was right.
Yeah.
So, so that's what I did. I finished up, and then I went to work at McDonald's School in that capacity, which was of a lot of interest to me.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, most of the students were, how should I say, spending their high school years in a very competitive educational background.
Mm-hmm.
I had two sons who went there. One of my sons was there when I was there, so
Mm-hmm.
he never minded that I was. Most of the time, the students in the freshman class were pretty balanced kids. However, it seemed to be from balanced kids. There were a few things along the way. And then three students over, 8 years told me they were going to commit suicide.
Mm.
So that was always, it didn't happen often, but when it did, it was just so sad
Mm-hmm.
that they missed something so important in their lives. And sometimes they didn't like their teachers, and sometimes I had once or twice I had to fill in classes with students because the teacher was sick or someone had another job, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just fill in there a little bit, not very often.
And you were the counselor for them.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
What did your intuition say to you as you were counseling these young people and they were coming to you with really big life decisions here? How did you let your intuition guide you for that?
Well, the first thing I had to do when someone talked to me like that, and I gave them some time, of course, we talk and respond to them and encourage them, all the kinds of things.
Yeah.
But then I realized something that's serious. I really had to tell the head of the school that because it was so serious that we had to be the school head of the school probably, depending on the family, really would call the parents in. And not that I wasn't enough, but he headed up the school, and that was really serious thing.
Yes.
So that would be something that was set together and set in between me and the student and the head of the school. So I just knew how to do it. I just knew how to do it. I just knew how to respond to children and and help them to tell me more how serious it was inside of them. So I guess that was intuitive, but it was a whole big stretch of things in my life that came together and helped me to respond. And then, of course, you had, there were kids who didn't bother to study and, the usual stuff.
And were you were acting as the school counselor or
academic counselor and personal counselor for the upper school. Okay. Not middle school, upper school. Yes.
And when you said you just knew how to respond and how to be with these young people, you just knew, like it just was a part of you forever? It was always like that?
Well, it was a result of everything I've already told you. My family, my church, my educational background, my personality, I think. Um, I love children, so I ached for them, or I was happy for them, or I was encouraged by them to help them grow up. So,
And my mom always said, your daughter, she always said that you always talked about how you felt at the dinner table. How did you all feel? How did you feel about that? And you were always really encouraging of that type of conversation. So then it seems like it only made sense that you would go to school to study psychology and then work as a academic counselor at McDonough School.
At the dinner table, I think I mostly started out with, okay, so what happened to you today? How did school go today? How did this bag?
I'm going to have a sip too. Good idea. How was school today?
So yeah, how was your how was your football team doing today? Or that, kids, they were kids.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and that one thing led to another in that situation. Somebody else said, not much. Sometimes, somebody would say, oh, I don't know, somebody hurt my feeling, whatever it talked about. But we did talk about, we did talk about, and some things that were happening in our culture, things that were happening in the government, as they got older, more and more things like that. Trying out for college and going through that process, and just everything that you would take to help people grow up, who I loved. So many things. I don't. Well, anyway, you won't talk about it when I talk about it out loud. But I have a son, and he was in between 4 girls. So 2 girls, my son, and then 2 more girls, and then another son, much younger. So one time, and he was probably, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9, maybe in that catalog. So he said, I am going to run away. And I said, oh my goodness. Why? Don't you like it here? And he said, no, everybody's always mad at me all the time. And I just don't want to do this anymore. I said, well, you know what? We will really miss you. But if you think you have to do it, then I just will be sad about it. And I know everybody will miss you. But I guess if you have to, that's what you have to do. You just have to do it. So he packed a little bag. I don't know what was in it. And it was summer, so it was nice out.
That helps.
And it was getting dark. And so he left. And
were you like, bye, Tommy?
We walked there, so I've had to follow him because it was getting dark, and there was a busy street about 8 blocks away that he was walking toward. So obviously, I want him to cross that street.
Yeah,
at night with no light, no headlight. So anyway, I just hid behind them, followed him, and he gets down there and down to that street, and he looked around and everything. He stayed there a little while and put his bag down on the ground and just looked around and all this kind. And then all of a sudden, he just picked up his bag and came back home. I followed him again.
I never knew this story.
We won't talk about that to Tommy now. Oh my God. He was my most I needed a lot of tuition with him. He was not harmless, but he's going to run away, all these girls, and all they do is have other girls coming in. And anyway, so I guess that was intuition for me.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
You said instead of, I imagine some parents would be like, no, don't go, or they would respond, fine, just leave, and your response, so compassionate. So, well, if that's what you have to do, then you got to do it. We're sure going to miss you. And then, following him to make sure everything's okay. Wow. So sweet.
Oh, well, I just intuited that. I have a lot of stories I have more stories about him than I do about my other children. He just was on the edge of that kind of stuff. I don't know if it had anything to do with sisters per se. We never talked about that, saying, I hate being in the middle of all these girls or anything like that. He didn't. He just, there he was.
Yeah.
He was just, I could tell you a couple more stories about it.
Oh, that's so sweet.
We moved to another house, another neighborhood, and he was maybe 5 then, I think 4. So, but I'm getting to go outside. I didn't want to go outside, so I said, "Well, here's your tricycle." So he had to be 3 or 4. And why don't you just ride around? So I went in the house and started doing things and everything. I don't know, 20 minutes later, I looked out the door. He was still sitting had moved on the tricycle. So there was a neighbor 2 doors up, and she had a son the same age. She was just just wonderful person. So I told her about it. And she said, I tell you what, she said, Thursday, bring him up here and they'll play in my backyard. And and if he cries, just don't come. Don't come. Just let him cry because he has to start moving around. So I said, okay, that'd be great. So he goes up there, cries. I can hear him. But she's at the fence. She said, don't worry about it. It's okay. So sure enough, that was the end of that. Ever after that, he went out, went to other people's houses, played in the neighborhood.
Aww.
That's it. But as you can see, he was, let's see, I responded to him and for my intuition about it. Yes. He had to get going.
Yes. Yes. And you had to respond with your intuition differently with each child.
Oh, yes, very much. Yes.
That's one thing that my mom has always said. She parented me differently than she parented Margaret, which she parented Kathleen.
Exactly.
Because we're different people.
Yeah, they are. Exactly.
And so you had 6 kids to be using your intuition with around how to be a kind and directive also.
That's true.
And a supportive mother.
And I loved it so. I loved them so much, and I was dedicated to bring them up well. And people are born with different personalities. They just
are.
So you just have to follow your heart.
I think that's another great way to talk about intuition. It's following the heart. Because our heart leads us.
It does indeed.
Or it can lead us.
Or we can, that's part of intuition.
Exactly. I love that you said that.
Was I going to spank him? Was I going to yell at him? Was I going to, why would I do that? he's a person, a human being, and he needs to be respected. And I don't have to be undone by that, I guess I'll say. Just he was a child, and I knew he could be stronger. So and then he did get stronger. And a few other things along the way, but things a little bit like that.
Ah, yes. Yeah, thank goodness. I feel so grateful as the next generation, that you chose to see your children as little people and honor them and respect them and not abuse them because they weren't doing what you wanted them to do or something.
You know, when I was young, my mother, those were the days, I guess, when people got spanked. And my mother,
I think people still get spanked, MaMere.
You think so?
Yeah.
MaMere.
I know.
Doesn't help. Makes it worse.
I think so.
I think that, and my mother, she'd had a switch. She called it a switch. A stick off of a bush in the yard, pull all the leaves off, and you've had this switch and sit on your legs, make it on your legs. It hurts. So when we moved to this second house, and this is the area that I'm talking about now. There was a place right out of the kitchen door, up bush, and it was perfect for making switches. So I thought, I'm just going to I'll get switches ready, and I'll just put them right up here on the top of the refrigerator. And if anybody doesn't obey, then I'll have it ready to go. I thought that's what you did because it was done to me. And about 6 months later, I was opening the refrigerator and I looked up. I thought, oh my God, of course I don't need that. Why did I think I needed that? I'm not going to hit my children. No. So.
And you just, 6 months later, you just threw
the witch away.
What do you call it? Switch.
A switch.
Threw it away.
Threw it away.
How did you get that insight?
It was 2 or 3 months into living there, and I had forgotten about it. I didn't even notice it. And then when I accidentally saw it one day.
Right.
And I thought, I'm never going to use
There's a better way.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. There's a better way.
So what was a better way? You know, for those people who only think or were also taught by being, switched. What did you find from following your heart was a better way to discipline or guide? That's
a good word. Discipline. Discipline's in there.
Your children.
I don't know. I guess it was just intuitive. That I knew things happened and I did what I did.
You responded based on what you felt.
And what I thought would be good for them. I mean, I was different with Tommy than I was for one of my daughters. It was just they had different personality. And I have to get another drink.
Sure. I'm gonna close this window.
Strong girl.
Oh, I'm just enjoying this so much. Love hearing all this. MaMere wisdom.
Yeah. And I think and then people started coming to me and saying, friends, can you help me?
Oh.
You seem such strong relationships with your children and the way you respond to them. could you help me? My son is doing X or Y or Z. And so I became a good listener. I probably was most of the time been a good listener. And so then I just got more and more interested in children outside of mine. And that's how I happened to go to work in McDonald's school. Obviously, other people there saw that in me and thought that I would help them a lot in the schools. So that's why that happened. Because my first son went to McDonald's, and then they knew us as a family. So.
And you just knew how to work with each child individually. You just knew how to trust yourself to do that.
I did pretty much. I only got really angry once with one of my children because he had done something that was not safe. So, and that was the only time I was really angry. Like, oh my God, this is just awful.
Wow, one time with 6 children in 30 something years.
Yeah. I mean,
pretty good.
I was in control.
What do you mean?
I knew I was in control of my family. I was in control of what I needed to. I respected them, and I wanted them to, grow up really well. And
when you say you were in control of the family, how so? Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, the stories that I've just finished telling you.
Speaking with your children as human to human, connecting with them,
enjoying them,
giving them permission to follow their heart if their heart's saying they need to run away. Things like that.
I don't know where that came from. I just did it. I knew I wanted to really make sure he didn't go very far.
Sure.
I didn't think he would. I thought it was an impulse of his. But on the other hand, I didn't want him to cross the busy street. And so that's why. But, oh my gosh, it's tough. And then you just have to laugh about it.
Yeah.
You can't be so serious all the time.
Yes. That's such an important lesson too, isn't it? Oh my gosh, can't take ourselves seriously. Come on.
Yeah, they're people. They're like me, like us.
Yes.
They're people. They're not some person who don't care about.
No.
You don't want to I don't want to impulse them. I wanted to lift them up. And I just loved them. The way I treated them, the way I would like to be treated. My parents used to switch, and I didn't, because I knew I could do it with words, or with spending time alone in your room, or I don't know, whatever it was needed to be done. I just knew what to do. So I guess I was intuitive.
I guess so. And a lot of people saw it and feel it, and I felt it. And I'd love for us now in the last 15 minutes or so for you to jump a bit beyond the young childhood, the development, and share with us some other powerfully intuitive moments in your life. And you can go with that wherever you want.
Well, I had a career, and obviously the people in the school knew that I was capable. So I had with children, capable with children. And the school had wonderful ways of treating children.
Mm.
And there were a couple of people there who were really largely um, uh, responding to children's lives and their education and all that. It was just a wonderful place, which is why we sent our son there. Two sons, actually. It was an all-male school. It isn't now, but it was then. Well, now to take that back, it was co-ed when I went. They had just gotten the girls. So that's what I think triggered me, that they had that them with me came to me because they were transitioning for girls.
I see.
So and then I now what was your question? I forgot.
That's okay. So tell us then, after deciding, I'm really curious about then moving to Colorado and you marrying Anthony and starting a total new life and speaking to us about following heart on that journey.
Yeah, that was a huge thing for me to do.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I had been married before and it was complicated. I'll just leave it at that. And then I lived alone, but my children were old, grown up. So that it wasn't an issue, but it was an issue because I didn't want to disturb my family or I wanted to be near them and enjoy them.
And most of them lived in Baltimore.
Yes.
Except for our family. No, we were still living in Baltimore at that time.
Yes. So most everybody lived in Baltimore still. Well, no, definitely lived in, yeah.
Yeah, everybody did.
So, but I felt my children were grown. They were having their own families. That was getting I was satisfied in my response to them. They didn't need me anymore like they did when I was raising them up. They were adults. So I think that was a big part of it, that I could, because I was so close to my children, it was hard for me to leave that. However, we had a long lost friend, not a long lost friend. That's not the right word. We had a friend who had never married, and he was in religious life with the Catholic Church. And so therefore he was a wonderful adult, but he wasn't married because they didn't marry. So he was a good friend, and he had moved to Denver. And we were in contact, and he had contacts in Baltimore, which were business kinds of things. So he would come periodically to Baltimore. And so we saw each other, talked on the phone. And he was a friend with my parents and my husband's parents and my children. One of the best stories, that's just the same Tommy. He said, the first year we knew bro, he gave us encyclopedias for Christmas. Everybody got a encyclopedia. Well, we definitely did not want an encyclopedia. And you can imagine, they were so kind. But anyway, it was the same one. So, but anyway, Anthony said, if you come to Denver, I will help you. You won't need to worry and think you're afraid or isolating yourself. I'll help you. And so I thought about it for a long time. And by now I was working at Notre Dame College. I left McDonough after 7 years. And anyway, but so I just thought, why not?
Yeah.
I'm kind of miserable here. I have a job, but my children are well established, having their own family, married. Everybody was married. Everybody was that grown up.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't. And Anthony said, "I'll help you. You should stay in touch with your children. You can do that."
Mm-hmm.
So after many months, I guess I'll say, I decided to do that. And once I did it, I think my daughters took me to the airport and they put me on the plane. And they say they all looked at each other and said, can you believe this? I can't believe that. What? How did this happen? She left us.
She's moving to Denver. Wow.
But I intuited that life was going to be better. And it was a tryout. I had to go home. It didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
I was really ready for, ready for that. And that was intuitive. I just knew when the time came, I had an opportunity I didn't know what I was going to do. Get a job or I don't know. I had this contact with Anthony and I knew that I'd be safe and all that. So I moved to Denver.
You moved to Denver.
I did.
And
then after some months, he was on his third education and had a business in Denver.
As a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he was a therapist.
Yes, he had a business with now mostly with business people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he worked a lot in Washington, D.C. with interestingly enough, the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a firm feet on the ground for sure.
Yep.
So I don't know. Then we just got close to each other and we'd known each other. So we trusted each other. Mm-hmm. And I had confidence in him that he would help me with something, which it didn't. I was perfectly happy with, loved it. But anyway, then we fell in love. Mm-hmm. And then I married him. Mm-hmm. So after a couple of years later,
mm-hmm. Yeah. So, we love bro.
I know. We love him.
Love bro.
And then I'm so sad because he died. Yeah. And he died and I miss him tremendously. Yeah. But he would want me to just keep on trucking. And that's what I've done. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what I know I need to do. It's what I want to do. I'm alive. You're alive. And I didn't want to not enjoy the rest of my life, as sad as that was for me. Yeah. And still is. Yeah. Actually, very. But you, Eleanor, said to him, you might not remember this. We were in our kitchen one day, and you said, I'm sorry. I got to give the background here. He became very ill with ALS. And so we were in the kitchen and he had been responded and all kinds of things happened. But you said to him, are you afraid to die? And he said, no, I just don't want to leave MaMere. You remember that? Of course I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There it was. There it was. He was not afraid to die. Mm-mm. Man of faith. Isn't that wonderful? Mm-hmm. I hope I can be like that. Me too. Mm-hmm. It's possible. I'm sorry, I'm just drying out. No, it's perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. Thank you, water. Mm-hmm. I've had 2 bottles already. We love water. I wish I loved it. Anyway, so here I am. So here you are. And 91 years old. Mm-hmm. Still listening to your intuition, bringing you out to Colorado every summer. Yeah. Well,
And you brought us out every summer, Anthony, we call him Bro said, you're going to stay in touch with your family. We're going to bring your grandchildren out to Colorado. We've got to get them out west. And I started coming to Colorado every single summer, starting in winter when I was 2 years old. We would spend summer and winters with MaMere and Bro in Cherry Creek.
mhm.
And then we would go to the mountains. And I completely fell in love. And then when it was time for me to choose where I got to live, I knew I wanted to be in Colorado, and I spent a lot of time with you all.
Oh my goodness, yes, you did. Oh, very much so. You had friends, you had the weekend off from camp when you began to work there.
Yep.
And you'd come and bring a friend, and our door was open. Anthony loved all that, all that.
He did.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. And he taught school for a long time in an all male high school. And so he had matured working with them.
Yes.
And helping them to mature. But then he just liked children, and his biggest focus, we have got to get these children out of Baltimore. Mm-hmm. We've got to get them out here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he financed all that. And then he rented not a bus, but I don't know, some kind of a car.
Big van.
And a big van. And it took him to the south of Colorado and
mm-hmm.
And
Four Corners.
Yeah.
Bryce and Zion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we had wonderful time together doing that.
We did.
We just really, again, we loved children.
Yes.
Young people. By that time, you were young people. Uh-huh. But I don't know. We wanted to help them develop and be mature and strike out on your own.
And you did. And you were both therapists.
Oh, yes.
And now I am. And I feel like it was just infused into me because of who you are and how you represented yourselves and how you spoke to us and how you really wanted to know what we had to say. You pulled out the rich information from us, really, both you and Bro, incredible listeners. And we had so much fun.
We did. We really did have fun. It was mainly fun.
It was. And you and Bro were married for 20 years before he died?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Best 20 years.
Yeah, best 20 years.
I remember my junior year of college. That was when Bro got sick. Mm-hmm. And I was so sad because I would come over on Sundays.
Exactly.
During college. And then Kathleen was coming. My sister was coming to go to college at the University of Denver as well. And you all were moving back to Baltimore so that the family could take care of you and Bro.
Yeah. And I knew we would bury him there. And many, many friends still there. And so which we had kept in touch with.
And so the transition out of Colorado, was really challenging, I think, for everybody, including you, which is why you get to keep such a gift that you are so healthy and so able-bodied still at 91 years old.
Yes, I am.
I mean, it's an amazing gift.
I'm well. I'm just well. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I had a good life. I had a really, really good life. And so what's there to fret about? So.
Any advice for the older generation, the elders who are in a similar place of life to you, that your intuition might guide you to say right now to them as they're getting older? The reason I ask is because as we start to get older, there can sometimes be a framework of it's really hard to get older, or, oh, my body, like there's often, I don't often see elders like you being in such high spirits And I'm curious if there's any words of wisdom that you might have for them as people are getting older.
Many of my friends have died. And I don't have a world of friends. I have a nice group of very close friends. And that was intuitive too. I like being with people I can relate to and speak together about the world and about our government and about issues that crop up all the time. And I had really, really good friends the other day that obviously live in Denver. And so they came to spend the afternoon with me. And it had all that, but then we just had fun. They were talking about one of their older daughters who's quite older now, probably, I don't know, not too old, 50 maybe. And she just makes thousands of things happen all the time. And they're telling these stories about this daughter. And is that we laughed the entire afternoon. It was so much. And I'm sorry when I go to Baltimore that I don't have, some of my friends have died. So I don't have as many friends like that where we can just really have fun, you know. And then we just had that, my friend here gave a luncheon for me the other day.
Yeah.
And I invited few friends that I have here are still alive. And then I asked her if I could have my granddaughters. So she loved that.
Yeah,
she
that was so
such
fun.
a great idea.
Yeah, thank you
And
for
we
inviting
did.
us to that. We did.
Oh my God. Again, what were we talking about? And I've forgotten. It was so
Oh my gosh.
Oh, about a couple of people were looking for a boyfriend.
Dating. Yeah. The dating world.
And that was absolutely hilarious. We all
It's a
responded.
different time.
Oh my God. It was so fun.
It was so fun. So it sounds like your words of wisdom is really just to have fun.
Well, I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And growing up when my children were little, we had fun. We had friends, we had parties.
Yeah.
And I've left all that out because that's out here, and we were talking about here. Yeah. But oh yes, that was we never. I have. Do you mind if I tell stories?
Not at all. This will be our last one because we got to take you to your hair appointment.
Oh, which time is it?
We have.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Okay. I might not have time, but let's end on the luncheon here.
Okay, great. Yeah. Great. Okay. What a wonderful time we've had. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
For sharing this with me.
Glad to do it.
And for all of us.
It was an honor.
I love you so much.
Thank you back. Love you back.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. What a true honor. I would like to take a moment and share my ancestral lineage so that you can get to know me, your host, Eleanor Evans Medina, a bit more. My last name comes from my husband, John Medina, and his Native American Mexican lineage. My mother, Barbara Tracy Bagley, and my father, Henry Evans Hooper. My mother's mother, Barbara LaPorte Ipsaro from Louisiana, and my father's mother, Eleanor Evans Hooper from Maryland. She is my namesake. My mother's father, Vince Bagley from Maryland, and my father's father, Lawrence Hooper from Maryland. My maternal lineage is from Germany, Ireland, Italy, and France, and my paternal lineage is from England, Ireland, and Wales. I have teachers from many traditions, including Peru and Mexico, and I wish to thank them all. I am honored to be here to share my perspectives. Thank you so much for listening and for being a part of this podcast. We're so grateful and we're wishing you many, many blessings on this beautiful journey of life. Be well, sweet friends. See you next time.